One of the ways you can tell that it's going to be a good day is when you're driving a Ford GT Mark II. One of the lesser known variations of the GT40/GT lineage family thing. It's essentially, how do I put this? When Ford made the 3rd generation GT, or the 2nd generation GT, if you want to make that argument, it was a road car, 3.5 litre EcoBoost V6, which made 600 horsepower. Yep, very EcoBoosty. They also took it racing, GT3 racing again, just like the previous generation GT. Arguably the 1st generation GT, but it's so complicated I'm not even going to get into it. Only because of balance of performance rules, it meant that the GT3 GT was actually less powerful than the road-going one. So what did Ford do? Well, they made 45 very limited edition road-going versions of the racing version of the road-going car. Oh, it's a very complicated story, this one. Anyway, instead of just giving it road car performance, they went, hey, let's make it even spicier and give it 700 brake horsepower. It's genuinely just a case of what the hell with this thing. And I love it. The GT40 is what the GT Mark II is based on. When you go through its ancestry. Basically, we all know the story. Back in 1962, Ford opposed to buy Ferrari, but at the last minute Ferrari sort of backs out the deal with a massive fuck you, which pisses off Henry Ford, and rightfully so. So he decides to build the GT40 with the help of the British Ford division, but with an American engine and stuff, because, you know, a British and American partnership that can actually work will work well. And he does, in an enormous middle finger to Ferrari's endurance racing glory. He wins 4 times on the trot, 1966 to 1969. Before in 1970, the glory era of the GT40 is ended by Porsche with the 917 Kurtzek. Both of which happen to race in Golf livery, which is this livery here. And if you were watching the clips with the GT Mark II, I've also tried to replicate that on it. Badly. Ford tried numerous times to rekindle the magic of the iconic GT40. They tried with the GT70, which was nothing like the GT40, and the public never really warmed to it. It's been largely forgotten, but I think it's quite cool. There was also the GT90 back in the 1990s. I think it was 1995, but don't quote me on that. Which looked like something out of a comic, and to be honest, has also been largely forgotten by history. So in 2003, Ford realised that the only way to make a car as iconic as the GT40 was to make the GT40. And they basically modernised it. 4 inches taller and 18 inches longer, but still just a GT40. They made the GT40 concept. 2 years later, it went into production as this, the GT. Owned by Jeremy Clarkson, memorably, because it was always going wrong. You know what they say about Ford? It stands for Fix or Repair Daily. And that actually did bring the GT40 into a modern age, and people liked it. It outdid Ferrari's 360, and once again took a shit all over the Italian's name. Honestly, this is a rare Ford W. Actually, no, why am I saying rare? It's only rare because Ford are doing shit all nowadays. Back in the day, Ford were quite cool. See the Escort Cosworth. Amongst other things. And then Ford did it again in 2017 and made the GT. Again. So this is essentially the GT Mark II, only not the GT Mark II because the GT Mark II is based on the GT, which can also be called the GT Mark II. Ford, please just get a better naming system. It's even worse back with the classic GT40s, because there was a GT40 Mark 1, the GT40 Mark 2, the GT40 Mark 3, which was actually road legal, which I didn't know, and the GT40 Mark 4, which was lethal. We don't talk about that one, because... Actually, no, we do talk about that one, it was just really lethal. Anyway, this is it. The 2017 Ford GT. The basis for the GT40, no, not the GT40 Mark II, the GT Mark II, the GT40 Mark II was a 1960s car. I am blathering on right now. And I'm not going to stop. This was actually very different to the 2005 GT, and obviously the GT40 before it. Much more modern and much more comfortable, actually worthy of the name GT. Even if it still wasn't very comfortable for a GT car. It also had a really cool thing called race mode. If you ever seen a video of like a McLaren P1 going into race mode, it just slowly suckers itself to the ground and sticks its wing up. This is much cooler. It just basically instantly presses itself into the ground and the wing goes up. It's like some sort of transformer. Every childish bone in my body wants it to be available as a thing in Dealership Tycoon for the GT. Unfortunately, it isn't. Dealership Tycoon devs, add it. Please. And then, well, that wasn't the only change, because as well as it being more modern and comfortable, it went out with the old supercharged 5-litre 8-banger, and in with this EcoBoost V6, which I told you about while I was talking about the actual GT Mark II. Which I'm going to get back to now, because we've actually got to start reviewing it rather than blathering on about all its pedigree, and me talking very quickly about the GT40 Mark 1, GT40 Mark 2, and let's just not do this again. This is the fastest of all the GTs, as you would expect, but even so, the power is still blinding. Look at it accelerating past 180 miles an hour up that hill. No normal car should be able to do that, but this one does. It does sort of slow out a bit after about 250 miles an hour, but that's because this is more of a track car. High downforce means more weight and more aerodynamic drag, which does aid in the corners, but it slows you down on the straight. It's a trade-off. One which I'm willing to bet is worth it. Let's actually test it in the corners. Up this road again. I really like this road. Look at that, 104 miles an hour I was able to take that corner at, and it was cornering perfectly fine and flat. Which is not something you'd expect it to do, because unfortunately the Dealership Tycoon devs mucked up the model on this a bit. The suspension's too tall and you can't lower it anymore. Bit of a shame, but fortunately the cornering ability makes up for that. Really good in the corners. I like it a lot. Oh, I've crashed it again. Let's see how the road-going version of a racing version of a road-going homage to a race car goes, well, not on the road. Seriously, this thing is so complex and convoluted in history, it's giving me a migraine, but let's see how it is on the track. As it turns out, it doesn't give me a migraine on the track, quite the opposite. It's really good fun. So easy to turn through the corners, you can just instantly tell exactly where the braking points are. I really didn't need much time to get to grips with this car when it first launched and I got it. You can just instantly learn with it. Which is oh, whoa! 28.63! You know, for 10.5 mil, in a car that you can only get for 14 days, that's pretty damn good. It's a limited. Buy it, you'll never have the chance to again. But also just buy it because it's a good car. I am loving my time behind the wheel of this thing. Usually I would also like to offer buyer's advice, you know, if you just want a car like this but don't care about the fact it's a limited, what do you want? Unfortunately, there's not really much buyer's advice. Because the next car is about 3 million less than it. And then the next car up is a cruiser, the car after it is a really hardcore racer. It doesn't really have any rivals. So, should you buy it? Yes. Yes, you should. I would. I did. And I don't regret it. So, on that bombshell, I will see you all, hopefully over the course of the next week, with reviews of, and these are just what I'm guessing from the teasers on the Dealership Tycoon Discord server, the Mercedes Maybach GLS, and, oh, what was the other one? The Maserati MC12. See you then, hopefully. In the meantime, enjoy some bloopers. Ferrari was about to be bought by Ferrari, then they sort of... What? Ferrari was about to be bought by Ferrari? The GT40 Mark II is one of the lesser known variants of the GT... Am I calling it the GT40 Mark II? Oh, I'm such an idiot. Yes, it's 4 inches taller and 18 inches longer, but it is still the GT40. God damn it! Up this road again. I really like this road. Oops, I crashed it into a tree. And now I'm stuck. This is going well. Oh god damn it, I've mucked it up with my coughing. Get the back wheels spinning and launch. Please Why wouldn't you turn?